Dear trading community, unfortunately things are not looking good for Bitcoin at the moment. As you can see, even in the last hour, specifically this one 15-minute candle, there was actually $1 billion in liquidations taken out. We can also see it here. It currently shows the last 4 hours, but when it had just happened, it said that in the last hour there were over $1 billion in liquidations. Exactly with this candle, it liquidated quite a few people again. If it happened to you as well, I'm truly sorry about that. I hope it didn't hit you too hard. Today we're going to do an analysis of how things might continue from here. Because at the moment, I have to be completely honest with you, my strategy that I showed you, so I'm always fully transparent with my trades, normally with Fibonacci long term, I'd say a 0.5 entry, but unfortunately that didn't work and neither did 0.618. However, I still had a position open. It was a small one on Bitunix and it was closed at the stop loss. This just goes to show once again how important it is to have a stop loss in place. As I mentioned, that position is still being built up, so it's still open. But I also have to be honest, and I'll show you this on the chart in a moment. I'm not sure if I'll continue to build it up or not. My liquidation price is just below 79,000 US dollars, and I would have to add another 10,000 US dollars to the position. I'll show you this here as well. This is the position, currently $7,000 in the red. I can handle that. It's not a huge problem. You can see liquidation would happen at 79,080. If that happens, then so be it. Initially, I wanted to set it up so that right before liquidation, I would add another position, which would allow me to average down further. My entry price would then be around 89,000 US dollars, which would be very good, but I don't want to risk it in case we keep dropping. Because Bitcoin has been in free fall the whole time without any significant recovery so far. But despite everything, I still see a recovery. We'll see what happens here. What's my plan if I really let this position hit the liquidation price? Then I will have lost $9,300 here, which is fine. Because at the same time, I still have my position in Ethereum. I've already realized just over $10,000 there. That means here too, we'll see how far it goes down or not. That would be about 2,600 in losses that would be incurred in this case. That means overall, I would be break even because even I have to pull the plug at some point, but I could just let this position run further. It's not that dramatic now. It contains 4.48 Ethereum. And I could just compound it again with the same position size, and I'm not in any danger at all. It's also just a 1x leverage position, so I'm still thinking about that. I just don't really like that right now. So you can see all of this quite transparently. Even though the previous trade, basically the whole of October since the crash, the trades were all wonderfully positive. Now the risk might just be a bit too high. If we look at the setup now, my planned setup with a possible 0.5 entry, with a possible 0.618 entry. And in order for us to get a reversal there, just like we had here as well, for those who might be watching and aren't familiar with it, here we had the same thing. We had the 0.5 as support, and then it went up, and that's exactly what I'm basing my approach on now. Feel free to check out my channel. It works every time, the simplest trading strategy, and you're still not using it. Every time, well, in this case, unfortunately, not quite, but this really is the trading strategy that I teach in detail. Also, Trading Learner, step by step to becoming a pro trader. The playlist will help you tremendously to gain deeper insight into the market instead of just looking at the chart blindly. And accordingly, I'd also appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel. And if you've just suffered some losses, you can get a bit of it back. With Bitguard, if you sign up using my link, you can get up to $8,000 in bonuses. But what's really awesome is that right now, if you deposit $100, you get a $400 bonus, then deposit $500, and get an $800 bonus. And on top of that, there's something else as well. After signing up, I have a second link for you in the video description. Here you can get yourself a VIP 1 trial pass. You just need to click here, and then you'll get 14 days of VIP 1 with lower fees, plus a $200 bot crit voucher, and another $200 voucher for a futures position. That basically means it's an amazing deal because with a $500 deposit, you get $800 here and then another 2 times $200. So that's $1,200 you get as a bonus for just a $500 deposit. And there's something similar at PIONEX as well, which I got myself. I shared it with you yesterday during the live stream when I opened my trading bots. There's also a link for that where you can sign up, and depending on how much you deposit, you'll get a bonus here that allows you to copy these grid trading bots. And right now, with such a low price, it's of course ideal to open a grid trading bot and without any risk because you don't even have to use your own money. You can actually just use the bonus for it. All right, but what's the situation with Bitcoin right now? What do I see next? If we now switch to a neutral chart and include this here again, you can see that the setup is more or less invalid. Romeo07 has now also been broken to the downside and it's dropping a bit further. The problem we have now, if I turn on the VPVR and only include this current year, so everything that has happened with Bitcoin this year, we've broken through the main support, which was right here in this volume profile, to the downside. We now have one more volume block here, in this case exactly up to 80,535. That would be right here, as you can see, exactly this block here, which still serves as support. Because if that doesn't hold either, and we zoom out a bit further and include last year as well, then unfortunately things don't look so good anymore, because then the next major volume support isn't until around 60,000. And that would be right here now that I've included last year. And that wouldn't be so great, because right now, as you can see here, we're struggling with the area around 82,000 US dollars. After that, if we include the last 2 years, there's a massive volume gap. And this volume gap can be filled very quickly. And then the next step we have here, in this case, if we include 2 years, is 71,000 US dollars. I know nobody wants to hear that. I also want to show you something with the extension. I also show this in my playlist. So target levels for Bitcoin or Ethereum or any altcoin, where could it go in the event of a trend reversal? And there we see 1.618, 1.809, and 2 would actually be right in this volume block if we really do keep falling. But what I still see is that we've really just been falling for a whole week now, more than a week, without any significant recovery. That's what I mean. We've always had recoveries in between before. That hasn't happened this time. If we look at it now, if I bring in the RSI, let's take a look at the RSI here. The current level of the RSI is actually at a low point, which is quite rare. We've had this once here, here, and here, but that's about it for now. If we look at the history on Binance and the biggest crashes here, whenever the RSI was this low, there was always at least a small recovery afterwards. I also want to discuss this small recovery with you, because I'm ready to go short again in case a recovery really does happen, which in my opinion will occur sooner or later, just by looking at the liquidation heat map alone. But that we see something similar to this here. And then if this really is the bear market, we could go even further down, because if we just keep free falling, then I really don't know what's going on this time. But those would be the possible scenarios now, actually the target levels. And when I look at the target levels, where this could go, and where, as I just mentioned earlier, my new volume block is, which is down here in these areas, it's just not worth it to me to compound my current open Bitcoin position that much. If I look at my liquidation price, which would come into play if I put in another $10,000 now, that would be about a $90,000 position. And the liquidation, whatever comes in after that, wouldn't be enough for me to survive these levels. Accordingly, at some point, I also have to say, okay, that's it, stop. And that would be the case now. We'll see. Maybe I'll get liquidated and then everything will go up. But that's still just speculation for now. But how do I see opportunities for a recovery? What would my next recovery look like? Daily chart? If we look at this, and I've said it again and again in the last live streams and videos, purely from a Fibonacci perspective, which always works no matter where we apply it, whether with corrections and further increases, or if we have bearish price action and we're asking, okay, where can I find a new short? You see, we had it here, it worked, we had it a second time here, after we made a new lower low again, back to the 0.5 Fibonacci, and in this case, further down. That means for me, sooner or later, I at least expect a possible recovery to the 94,000 to 97,000 range in this case. The 101,000 level is also super interesting, because we have this level here where we had a small recovery before it went down again. And since then, after this free fall, we really haven't touched it again so far. And that's exactly why, even if we now had a recovery from 81,000 up to 94,000 to 97,000, for many this could of course mean very bullish momentum. But you should keep in mind that we are still in an ongoing bearish price structure, and only when we break through the 107,000 level to the upside on the daily chart, this was the last lower high, would we have a bullish upward structure again. Of course, we could also form it here already. It would then look like this. We say, okay, we have an upswing, maybe face a rejection here, and then gradually start to form a possible bullish structure within the ongoing downtrend. But you have to be cautious with that. That means, for example, if you go short here, as I am going to do, and if we correct downward, I will of course look for the next upswing, which would look as follows, assuming this remains the low. I say, okay, we go in here at the 0.5 level, and actually look, that would even be perfect. I actually just drew it in for fun, but that would be the option that I say, okay, at the 0.5 level, I would look for another entry, and at the 0.618, another entry. Then I have a short position in profit and a long position in profit, and then I'll see which one works out. So as things currently stand, if the price doesn't drop any further, this would be my trading strategy and how I will continue to proceed. What I did with Ethereum, also here with Ethereum, I took a stop loss here, and now I have the second position here at the 0.618 entry. That's also the long-term entry I mentioned. And why the long-term entry? For that, I actually took the bear market bottom, which we already had for Ethereum this year at 1,391, you could call it a bear market, the entire upward move. And now there's been a price drop downwards. The 0.5 level didn't hold. I have an entry at 0.618. I've also explained why that's quite valid for me. Here too, I can turn on the VPVR again, and we can see that right here at this volume block is the largest volume support. What we see here is that we consolidated for a very long time while Bitcoin was already rising, and this is our last major support down to around 2,439. But as you can see, we've already dipped into it at this point in time. And that's exactly what has happened this year with Ethereum's volume block. And if that also breaks, then we'll see Ethereum drop even further. I hope not too far, but those are the possibilities I currently see. I have the long position in there. We can see that one here as well. It's currently a bit in the red. No, sorry, it's here. That would be this position. That's a position of about $5,000. And unfortunately, at the moment, it's also a bit in the loss. Nothing dramatic, it's $100. But I'll keep testing that because otherwise, to be honest, I won't dare to open any new long positions until I see a bullish structure in Bitcoin or Ethereum. I have to be honest with you about that. I'm more likely to wait for short entries. Sorry. Let's use this chart here. For new short entries, and only when I see something that even remotely looks like a bullish structure so that we break through the last lower high to the upside, like we did here, would I consider entering a long position. That has to break for me first. That's exactly this downtrend here. Of course, this can also happen on the 4-hour chart. And that we break through valid levels to the upside here and then possibly have retests and get in earlier here than I would, for example, on the daily chart. Or even on the 1-hour chart, that could also become interesting. We have a few volume blocks here that would be interesting, or highs that would also be interesting. Once we break through these as well, it could indicate a possible long structure, but I always take profits along the way. That means this mistake now, well, I have to call it a mistake. In this case, I just had more trust in the long-term Fibonacci. But if we really are heading into a bear market now, then I have to take that into account as well. But overall, I have sold a lot. You can also see here at the peaks that I closed my long positions, went short, took a lot of profits, and actually did a lot of trading here, which allowed me to secure quite a bit of profit. Additionally, I also sold quite a bit up here in spot trading. And I also sold quite a bit of Ethereum, so in my case I can live with the loss because I realized much more profit than what I'm losing here. You really have to be aware of this. We're trading, losses are part of it, stop losses need to be set, and this once again shows me why I should use stop losses. It would have been much more sensible. I just put too much trust in the idea that I was going in for the long term, only for the price to drop so sharply. Almost like a waterfall, I have to say. I really didn't expect it to fall this much, especially not without a reasonable recovery. Because these exact days here, it's already been 10 days now that we've been falling without any significant recovery. This is something that hasn't happened very often in my experience. I've checked this again on the chart, looking back at the past. That means there's definitely massive selling going on here. But I can also see that based on the liquidation hits when we take a look, especially on Binance. If I refresh this up here again, sorry. And here, if I go to the 1-day view, I'll refresh it again now. We're constantly building up new liquidity below us, of course, but if you compare it on a daily basis, we have 173 million below us, but 2 billion above us. And what's super interesting are these highly leveraged positions. At $85,000, there's this line here. Then again at $85,700, but an extremely large one, and someone has a lot in there, is at $92,020. If we switch to the weekly view and look at this again, you can see again here at $85,500. The next larger position would be at $89,000. Then we have 92,000 and 97,000, which still have really large individual positions here, or rather large clusters of liquidations. But overall, even on a weekly basis, we see only 2.5 billion on Binance. And if I refresh this here and switch to the weekly chart, it's actually completely crazy that we have 451 million below us on a weekly basis. But on a weekly basis, above us, there are 12.5 billion sitting here. Until next time, ciao ciao.